Captain Deho stared at the empty space where Earth used to be. His metal fingers clicked against the control panel as he tried to make sense of what his ship's computers were telling him. The numbers didn't lie, but they didn't make sense either. "Sir, are you seeing this?" asked his pilot, a young woman named Jiwoo. Her voice was quiet, almost scared. She had been studying old human records for years, but she had never been this close to their home system. Deho nodded slowly. Half of his face was covered in metal parts that helped him see better and think faster. The other half showed deep worry lines. He had been flying ships for 40 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Run the scan again," he said. "Check everything twice." The ship's computers hummed as they worked. Outside the window, space looked normal. Stars dotted the darkness like tiny diamonds. But something was wrong. Very wrong. 20,000 years ago, this place had been full of life. Humans had built cities on planets and space stations around their sun. They had ships that could travel faster than anyone thought possible. They had weapons that could destroy whole moons. Then one day, they all disappeared. Not just the people. Everything. Their planets, their ships, their space stations, even their sun had gone quiet. It still burned, but it felt cold and empty somehow. "Sir," Jiwoo said, her hands shaking as she read the results. "The energy readings. They're not natural." Deho walked over to look at her screen. The numbers made his metal parts buzz with worry. Something big was moving out there in the darkness. Something that shouldn't exist. "Get me Admiral Hyjin," he ordered. "Right now." While they waited for the connection, Deho thought about the stories. Every child in the galaxy knew about humans. They were the scary stories parents told to make kids behave. Humans were different from all other species. Most aliens were born on safe worlds with nice weather and plenty of food. They learned to work together and share. But humans came from a death world, a planet that tried to kill them every day. This made them strange and dangerous. Other aliens had fur or scales or shells to protect them. Humans only had soft skin, but they never gave up fighting. When they got hurt, they got angry. When they got angry, they got creative. And when humans got creative, bad things happened to their enemies. The communication screen flickered to life. Admiral Hyjin appeared, her blue skin marked with the tattoos of a war leader. She had fought in 3 galactic conflicts and won them all. Nothing scared her. But when she saw Deho's face, her expression changed. "What did you find?" she asked. "We're not sure yet," Deho replied, "but something is happening in the Sol system. The energy readings are ... impossible." Hyjin was quiet for a moment. She had been in charge of the Galactic fleet for 15 years, and all that time, no one had dared to go near the human home system. It was considered cursed ground. "Send me everything," she said finally. "I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council." After the call ended, Jiwoo looked up from her computer. "Sir, I found something else. The energy pattern. It matches something in the old human artifacts." She put the data on the main screen. Deho studied the waves and lines. They looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen them before. "What kind of artifacts?" he asked. "Ship parts," Jiwoo answered. "Pieces of human technology that survived when they disappeared. We found them floating in space near their old colonies. But these artifacts are special. They do things that should be impossible." Deho knew about the artifacts. Every species in the galaxy had a few pieces of human technology locked away in secret labs. Scientists had been studying them for thousands of years, but they still didn't understand how they worked. Human metal was stronger than anything else in the galaxy. It could fix itself when it broke. It could change shape when needed. Some pieces even seemed to think on their own. But the most scary thing about human artifacts was that they were all connected somehow. When scientists in one lab did tests on their piece, artifacts in other labs would react at the same time, even if they were on the other side of the galaxy. "Sir," Jiwoo said, checking her instruments again. "The energy is getting stronger." Deho looked out at the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, something was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for 20,000 years. On other ships scattered across the galaxy, alarms began to ring. Alien scientists watched in shock as human artifacts in their labs started to glow. Some began to vibrate. Others made sounds like singing. In the Great Library on the planet Centauri, Dr. Minjun was studying old records when his computer started flashing red warnings. The human data crystal he had been working with for 10 years was suddenly blazing with light. He ran to the emergency communication panel and called the Galactic Defense Force. "This is Dr. Minjun at the Central Archive. We have a code black situation. All human artifacts are activating simultaneously." Similar calls came in from across the galaxy. Research stations, military bases, and private collectors all reported the same thing. Human technology was coming alive. Back in the Sol system, Deho watched as space itself began to change. The stars seemed to bend and twist. Colors that had no names appeared in the darkness. Captain Jiwoo whispered, "Look at the long range sensors." Deho checked the readings and felt his metal parts go cold. Something massive was moving toward them from deep space. Not flying, moving in a way that made no sense. It was like reality was folding to let it through. How big? He asked. Jiwoo checked her numbers 3 times before answering. Sir, it's the size of a moon. But the mass readings are impossible. It's like it exists and doesn't exist at the same time. Across the galaxy, Admiral Hyjin was already moving. She had called every ship captain she trusted and ordered them to prepare for the unknown. The Galactic Defense Fleet was the largest military force in history. But she had a feeling they were about to face something beyond their understanding. Her private quarters, she opened a sealed file that had been passed down through 5 generations of fleet commanders. Inside was a single piece of paper with instructions written in the old language. If the humans ever return, do not attack first, do not run. Listen to what they have to say. They left to protect us all from something worse. If they come back, it means the danger has found us. The paper was signed by Admiral Kwanho, the alien leader who had been in charge when humans disappeared. He had died 300 years ago, still wondering what had happened to Earth's people. 20,000 years later, the galaxy was about to find out. Something was coming home, and everyone hoped they were ready for what came with it. Dr. Jiwoo walked through the secret levels of the Galactic Archive, her footsteps echoing in the empty halls. The files she needed were kept in the deepest part of the building, where only the highest-ranking officials could go. Admiral Hyde had given her special permission to see the forbidden records about humans. The old records were stored in crystal cubes that glowed softly in the darkness. Each cube held thousands of years of information. Jiwoo found the one marked species 001 Terra and placed it in the reading machine. Images filled the air around her. She saw humans as they used to be, tall creatures with soft skin and strange eyes that changed color. They lived on a blue and green world covered in water and forests. But even in the oldest records, there were warnings about them. Subject shows unusual adaptability, one report said. Physical weakness compensated by tool use and group cooperation. Recommend caution in first contact protocols. Another report was more direct. Humans do not follow normal behavior patterns. When threatened, they become more dangerous, not less. They seem to enjoy fighting impossible battles. Jiwoo scrolled through hundreds of files. The humans had been fascinating to other species. They were the only race that had evolved on a world that constantly tried to kill them. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, storms. Their planet never gave them peace. This made them different from every other intelligent species in the galaxy. While other races learned to live in harmony with their worlds, humans learned to fight everything. They fought their planet, their weather, their own diseases, and even each other. But they also did something else that amazed other species. Never gave up on each other. When one human was in trouble, others would risk everything to help. They had a saying, no one gets left behind. A new file opened, and Jiwoo gasped. It was a video message from the last human ambassador to leave the Galactic Council. The man looked tired and sad, but his voice was strong. We know what's coming, he said. We've seen the signs at the edge of space. Something is moving toward our galaxy, something that eats everything in its path. We tried to warn you, but no one believes us. The ambassador looked directly at the camera. My people have decided to leave. We're going to stop this threat before it reaches you. We don't know if we'll survive, but we have to try. If we fail, at least we'll buy you time to prepare. The message ended with coordinates and a single word, waiting. Jiwoo saved the file and called her team. Within an hour, 4 of the galaxy's best specialists had arrived at the archive. Commander Taemin was a military expert who had spent his career studying human battle tactics. He was tall and thin, with scars on his arms from training accidents. I've read every human military manual we have, he said. Their strategies make no sense, but they work. Engineer Boyoung was small and quiet, but her mind was the sharpest in the galaxy when it came to understanding strange technology. She specialized in things that shouldn't exist but did anyway. Human technology breaks the rules of physics, she explained, but it works anyway. I've been trying to figure out how for 20 years. Navigator Subin had the best eyes in the fleet. She could track energy patterns across vast distances and find ships that others couldn't see. I've been detecting weird signals for months, she said. They're coming from the direction of the old human colonies. The last member of the team was Dr. Young-soo, an old scientist who had actually met humans before they disappeared. He was one of the few aliens still alive who remembered them. They were not like us, he said slowly. They thought differently. When we saw a problem, we looked for a safe solution. When they saw a problem, they looked for a way to solve it forever, no matter the cost. Jiwoo showed them the ambassador's message. When it ended, the room was silent for a long time. What kind of threat could make humans leave their home? Taemin asked. Young-soo answered quietly. Something that scared them more than death. Humans weren't afraid of dying. They were afraid of failing to protect others. Boyoung pulled up her energy readings on the main screen. Look at this. These signals are appearing all over the galaxy. They're not random, they're forming a pattern. The pattern looked like a giant net stretched across space. Points of light appeared at regular intervals, creating a web that covered thousands of star systems. It's a detection grid, Subin realized. Someone is watching for something. Yangsu nodded. The humans didn't just leave. They left behind a warning system. These signals are telling us that whatever they went to fight is still out there. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the archive. Jiwoo's communication device buzzed with an emergency message from Admiral Haijin. All research teams report. To command immediately, we have a situation. When they arrived at fleet headquarters, they found chaos. Hundreds of officers were running between computer stations, all talking at once. On the main screen was a map of the galaxy with red dots appearing everywhere. Admiral Haijin stood in the center of the room, her face grim. The human artifacts aren't just glowing anymore, she announced. They're talking. She played a recording. It was a voice speaking in the old human language, but the computer had translated it into Galactic Standard. Warning, perimeter breach detected. Unknown entities approaching from Vector 7 to 7 Alpha. Time to contact. Estimated 47 standard days. Recommend immediate evacuation of Outer Rim systems. The message repeated over and over, coming from human artifacts across the galaxy. Every piece of human technology had become a warning beacon. Sir, one of the communication officers called out, we're getting reports from the Outer Rim. 3 star systems have gone completely dark in the last 6 hours. Haijin's expression grew darker. Dark how? No signals, no light, no energy readings. It's like they just ... stopped existing. Jiwoo stepped forward. Admiral, we need to tell you what we found in the archives. The humans didn't disappear. They left to fight something, and now it's found us. She quickly explained what they had learned. As she spoke, more red dots appeared on the galactic map. Whatever was out there was moving fast. Commander Taman studied the pattern of disappearing systems. It's not random, he said. They're following the old human trade routes. Whatever this is, it knows where humans used to be. Yangsu looked at the advancing red dots and felt a chill run through his old bones. 20,000 years ago, humans tried to warn us about this. We didn't listen. Now they're gone, and we're facing their nightmare alone. But then Subin noticed something on her instruments. Wait, she said, there's something else. A new signal, much stronger than the others. It's coming from the direction of the Sol system. On the main screen, a new dot appeared. This one was different. It was blue, not red, and it was moving toward the galaxy instead of consuming it. The communication officer's voice shook as he read the new message. This is the Earth defense vessel Eternal Vigil. We are returning home. Prepare for contact. The enemy has found you, but you are not alone. Humanity remembers its promise. Admiral Haijin stared at the screen. After 20,000 years of silence, the humans were coming back. The question was, were they returning, as saviors or as something else entirely? All fleets to battle stations, she ordered. We're about to find out what happened to humanity. Let's hope we're ready for the answer. The space around the Sol system began to bend and twist like water. Captain Daeho watched from his ship as reality itself seemed to break apart. Colors that had no names swirled in the darkness. His instruments went crazy, showing readings that made no sense. Sir Jiwoo whispered, her voice full of fear. Something's coming through. The stars went quiet. Every sound on the ship stopped. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then, in the middle of the twisted space, something appeared. It was not a ship. Ships were things that people built to travel through space. This was something else entirely. It was as big as a small moon, but it looked like it was made of liquid metal that flowed and changed shape. Strange patterns covered its surface, lines and circles that hurt to look at directly. The thing existed in many places at once. Daeho could see it clearly in front of him, but his instruments said it was also above them, below them, and somehow inside their own ship at the same time. What is that? Jiwoo asked. Before Daeho could answer, every communication device in the galaxy started broadcasting the same message at the same time. The voice was human, but it sounded tired and old, as if it had been speaking for thousands of years. This is Captain Numseek of the Earth defense vessel Eternal Vigil. We are the last guardians of humanity. Our watch is ending. The Devourers have found a way through. Admiral Haijin was in her command center when the message came through. She had been preparing for this moment ever since the first human artifacts started glowing. Around her, hundreds of officers stared at their screens in shock. Sir, her communication officer said, his voice shaking. The message is coming from everywhere at once. Every relay station, every ship, every communication device in the galaxy is broadcasting it. The message continued. We know you are afraid. We know our return frightens you, but we are not your enemy. We never were. 20,000 years ago, we left to protect you from something far worse than anything you can imagine. On the main screen, images began to form. They showed the Eternal Vigil from the inside. The ship was vast, with corridors that stretched beyond sight. But it was not empty. People moved through the halls. Humans who looked different from the ones in the old records. These humans were taller and stronger. Their eyes glowed with a soft light. Some had metal parts built into their bodies. Like Daeho, but their technology was far more advanced. Others seemed to be made of light itself, their bodies shifting between solid and energy. We are the descendants of Earth's final generation. The voice continued. We have been changed by our long watch. We have become something more than human and something less. But we remember our promise to protect all life in the galaxy. The images showed the ship's bridge. A man sat in the captain's chair, but he was connected to the ship by thousands of thin cables. His eyes were closed, but lights danced under his eyelids. This was Captain Namseek, but he looked like he was dreaming and awake at the same time. Show them, he said without opening his eyes. The view changed to show the space around the ship. At first it looked empty. Then the darkness began to move, shapes appeared, things that should not exist. They were made of pure emptiness, holes in reality that consumed light and matter. Dr. Jiwoo gasped as she recognized what she was seeing. The Devourers, she whispered. They're real. The images showed battles that had been fought far from the galaxy. Human ships that looked like the Eternal Vigil fought against creatures of living darkness. The battles happened in dimensions that normal eyes could not see. Space itself was the battlefield. For 20,000 years, we have held the line. Namseek's voice said, we have fought in the spaces between realities. We have died and been reborn countless times. We have sacrificed our humanity to preserve all life. More humans appeared. On the screen, a woman whose body seemed to exist in multiple times at once introduced herself as Chief Engineer. A man whose skin was covered in battle scars called himself Tactical Officer Woojin. We volunteered for this, Myung said. Every human who joined the watch knew they would never see Earth again. We knew we would become something else, but we also knew that if we failed, everything we loved would be consumed. The images showed the truth that had been hidden for millennia. Beyond the edge of the galaxy was a vast darkness filled with creatures that ate entire dimensions. They were called the Devourers, and they had been trying to find a way into the galaxy for millions of years. The Devourers are not evil, Woojin explained. They are like a forest fire. They consume everything because that is their nature. But they are also patient. They probe and test, looking for weakness. 20,000 years ago, they found one. The screen showed Earth as it used to be. The planet was blue and green, covered in cities and forests. Humans lived there in peace, but they were also preparing for something. Our scientists detected the Devourer's scouts, Namseek said. We knew they would eventually break through, so we made a choice. We would leave everything behind and build a wall of ships and souls to keep them out. The final image showed the moment of humanity's departure. Millions of humans boarded ships that looked like the Eternal Vigil. They said goodbye to their world and flew into the darkness beyond the stars. We stationed ourselves at the threshold, Namseek continued. We became the watchers at the gate. We learned to fight in dimensions you cannot see. We learned to exist in multiple realities at once. We became the guardians of all life. Admiral Hyjin felt her heart sink as she realized what this meant. If they're coming back, the barrier is breaking, Namseek confirmed. The Devourers have found a way through our defenses. Their scouts are already in your galaxy. The main force follows behind. The communication ended with coordinates and a request. We need to meet with your leaders. Time is running out. The Devourers move faster than light, faster than thought. They consume not just matter and energy, but existence itself. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. The peaceful species that had lived in harmony for thousands of years, suddenly, faced a threat they could not understand. But the humans had returned, and they brought with them weapons and knowledge gained from 20,000 years of war. Prepare for the impossible, Namseek's final message said. The Devourers are coming, but humanity has not forgotten how to fight. We will teach you to survive what cannot be survived. We will show you how to fight what cannot be fought. The Eternal Vigil began to move toward the center of the galaxy, its impossible bulk sliding through dimensions like a knife through water. Behind it, in the darkness beyond the stars, something else was moving, something vast and hungry, drawn by the scent of life. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity had come home to fight it. The great meeting hall on the planet Zentara had never seen anything like this. Representatives from 47 different species filled the huge room, all talking at once. Some were shouting, others were whispering in fear. A few had already packed their ships and were ready to run. Admiral Hyjin stood at the center of the chaos, trying to make herself heard. Listen to me, she shouted. We don't have time for this. The Valonian ambassador, a peaceful creature that looked like a walking flower, trembled as he spoke. You're asking us to believe in monsters from fairy tales. The Devourers are just stories to scare children. The humans are the real monsters, growled the Krillian warchief. His red scales bristled with anger. They disappear for 20,000 years, then come back with impossible ships and crazy stories. I say we attack them first. An old creature, with too many eyes, raised his voice above the others. This was Elder Morden, of the Ethereals, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Silence, younglings. I have lived for 8,000 years. I remember the time before humans vanished. They spoke truth then, and they speak truth now. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew that the ethereals were ancient and wise. If they believed the humans, maybe the threat was real. Elder Morden continued, his voice heavy with sadness. My people have legends about the time before time. We speak of the great hunger that lives in the void between galaxies. We thought they were just stories, but now I fear they were memories. Admiral Hyjin activated the main screen. It showed the latest reports from the outer rim of the galaxy. 3 more systems went dark yesterday. That makes 12 in total. Whatever is out there, it's moving fast. The images were terrible to see. Where star systems used to be, there was nothing. Not empty space, actual nothing. Holes in reality that hurt to look at. Dr. Ji Woo stepped forward with her research team. We've been studying the pattern of attacks. The Devourers aren't just destroying these systems, they're consuming them completely. Matter, energy, even the memory that these places ever existed. She showed them a map of the galaxy with red zones marking the lost systems. At this rate, they'll reach the core systems in 60 days. Captain Namsik's voice suddenly filled the room. His ship was still traveling toward the Galactic Center, but he could communicate across any distance. Honored representatives, we know your fear, but fear will not save you, only action will. The screen showed the bridge of the Eternal Vigil. Namsik sat connected to his ship by hundreds of cables, his eyes glowing with strange light. We offer to share our technology with you. Weapons that can hurt the Devourers, ships that can fight, in multiple dimensions, but you must act quickly. Engineer Boyoung had been studying the human technology for days. She stepped forward, her small hands shaking with excitement. I've seen what their weapons can do. They don't just shoot energy or matter. They shoot ... existence itself. Explain, demanded the Krillian warchief. Boyoung called up technical diagrams on the screen. Normal weapons destroy things by breaking them apart. Human weapons destroy things by making them never have existed in the first place. It's the only way to fight creatures that exist outside normal reality. A human appeared on the screen next to Namsik. This was Engineer Kingho, and he looked more normal than the others. He still had human features, though his eyes held the weight of 20,000 years. We will teach you, Kungho said, but first, you must understand what you're truly facing. The Devourers are not just monsters. They are the universe's way of cleaning itself. When any area becomes too full of complex life, they come to reset it. Commander Sora appeared on the screen. She was a human military strategist whose body seemed to be made of flowing energy. We have studied them for 20,000 years. They don't hate life. They simply see it as disorder that must be fixed. To them, empty space is perfect. Everything else is a mistake. Medical Officer Sang Woo joined the conversation. He looked the most human of all, except for the strange silver lines that ran under his skin. We can enhance your bodies to survive dimensional warfare. The process is ... difficult. Not all will survive it, but those who do will be able to fight alongside us. The representatives looked at each other with fear and uncertainty. The peaceful species had never faced anything like this. The warrior species were used to fighting enemies they could see and understand. How many ships do you have? Asked General Insu of the Talon Fleet. Namsik's voice was quiet when he answered. 50 ships like the Eternal Vigil. We had more, but we lost many in the long war at the threshold. Each ship carries 10,000 souls who have given up their humanity to become something greater. That's not enough, General Insu said. The Devourer fleet will have thousands of ships. Millions, Namsik corrected. And each ship is a tier. In reality itself, but numbers are not what matters in this war. Understanding does. We know how they think. We know their weaknesses. Dr. Jiwoo had been studying the human data during the meeting. Now she looked up with wide eyes. There's something else in these files. Captain Namsik, you've been working on something for 20,000 years. What is it? Namsik was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. We have been calculating a proof, a mathematical demonstration, that consciousness and life have value beyond mere complexity. If we can show this proof to the Devourers, they might understand that life creates more order than it destroys. And if they don't accept the proof, Admiral Hyjin asked, we fight until there is nothing left to fight for, answered Tactical Officer Wu. His scarred face appeared on the screen, and his eyes burned with determination. Humans do not surrender. We do not retreat. If the galaxy dies, we die with it. But we will make the Devourers pay for every world they take. Suddenly, alarms began, ringing throughout the meeting hall. A communication officer ran in, his face pale with fear. Admiral, we're getting reports from the Outer Rim. The attacks have stopped. For a moment, everyone felt hope. Maybe the threat was over. Maybe the Devourers had given up. Then the officer continued, and his words froze everyone's blood. They've stopped attacking individual systems. Long-range sensors show they're gathering into one massive formation. All of them, they're preparing for a coordinated assault on the entire galaxy. On the main screen, an image appeared that would haunt everyone's dreams. Thousands of dark shapes moved through space like a plague of living shadows. Each shape was the size of a moon, and they were all heading toward the heart of the galaxy. How long do we have? Hyjin asked. Namsik's voice was grim. 14 days, maybe less. They've stopped playing with us. Now they come to finish what they started millions of years ago. The Great Hall fell silent. 47 species looked at each other and realized that everything they had ever known was about to end, unless they could learn to fight like humans, to never give up, no matter how impossible the odds. All in favor of the alliance. Admiral Hyjin called out. Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the room rose into the air. For the first time in galactic history, every species stood united. The final battle was coming, and they would face it together. The edge of the galaxy had become a battlefield unlike anything the universe had ever seen. 3,000 ships from dozens of different species hung in space, waiting for the enemy to arrive. At the center of the fleet was the Eternal Vigil, its impossible bulk shifting between dimensions like a ghost. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the readings on his instruments. His metal parts buzzed with nervous energy. Around him, his crew worked quietly, checking their weapons for the 100th time. "Sir," Jiwoo called from her station. "They're here." The darkness of space began to tear apart like old cloth. Through the holes came things that should not exist. The Devourer fleet was massive beyond understanding. Each ship looked like a wound, in reality, dark and hungry. The largest ship appeared last. It was so big that it bent space around itself, creating whirlpools of twisted light. This was the Devourer command vessel, and just looking at it made people feel sick. Admiral Hyjin's voice crackled over the communication system. "All ships, hold your positions. Wait for the signal." On the Eternal Vigil, Captain Namzik opened his eyes for the first time in years. The cables that connected him to his ship pulsed with energy. "Engineer Myung, is the proof ready?" Myung existed in multiple times at once, her body flickering between past and future. 20,000 years of calculations, Captain. Every moment of joy, every act of love, every choice to help instead of harm, all of it compressed into pure mathematics. "Will it work?" asked Tactical Officer Woojin. Namsik was quiet for a moment. "It has to. If it doesn't, then we fight until the end. That's what humans do." The Devourer fleet moved forward like a wave of darkness. Where they passed, stars went out. Space itself seemed to die, but they were not attacking yet. They were studying their prey. Then, from the command ship, came a voice that spoke in no language but was understood by all. It was the sound of entropy itself, the whisper of things ending. "Life, you resist the cleaning. This is wasteful. Submit to processing. Return to the perfect emptiness." Admiral Hyjin answered for the entire galaxy. "We are the free peoples of this galaxy. We do not submit. We do not surrender. If you want our worlds, you'll have to take. Then you will be processed." The voice replied, "Resistance adds to the disorder. You make the cleaning more necessary." The Devourer ships began to change shape, becoming weapons that could destroy reality itself. Dark energy gathered around them like storm clouds. But Namsik was ready. "All ships, begin the transmission. Show them what we've learned." The Eternal Vigil began to glow with strange light. The other human ships joined it, their combined power creating a beacon that could be seen across dimensions. The mathematical proof began to flow out from the fleet, written in the language of pure logic. The proof was beautiful and terrible. It showed how consciousness created patterns more complex than any natural process. It demonstrated that intelligence didn't just consume energy, it multiplied it, creating new forms of order and beauty. Every act of kindness, every moment of creativity, every time someone chose to help rather than harm, all of it was part of the proof. The humans had collected 20,000 years of evidence that life was not chaos to be cleaned up, but the universe's way of understanding itself. The Devourers stopped moving. Their ships hung in space like dark clouds, processing the information. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then the voice spoke again, but now it sounded different, uncertain. "Processing, unusual. Life forms create order, not disorder. Energy patterns, constructive rather than destructive. This data conflicts with primary directive. Do you understand now?" Namsik asked. "Life is not a mistake. It's the universe's greatest achievement. Reviewing, reviewing, mathematical proof appears, valid. Consciousness coefficient exceeds entropy threshold. Life classification requires updating." The largest Devourer ship began to pulse with new colors. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient cleaners of the universe were learning something new, but not all of them accepted the lesson. The smaller ships began to attack, firing weapons that could erase things from existence. The battle began. Admiral Hyjin gave the order. "All ships, engage the enemy. Protect the Eternal Vigil at all costs." The galaxy's greatest fleet surged forward. Ships designed for peace suddenly became warriors. The Valonians, who had never fired a weapon in anger, found courage they didn't know they had. The Krillians roared battle cries as they charged into impossible odds. Captain Deho's ship dove into the enemy formation. its new human weapons tearing holes in reality. For the galaxy, he shouted as he fired at a devourer ship. The battle was unlike anything ever seen. Ships fought not just in normal space, but across multiple dimensions. Alien crews, enhanced with human technology, pushed their bodies beyond all limits. Engineer Boyoung had been modified with human enhancements. Now she could see the flow of energy across dimensions. I can hit them, she called out, targeting weak points in the enemy formation. Dr. Jiwoo, working from the research ship, found patterns in the devourer movements. They're protecting their command ship. If we can reach it, we can end this. But the enemy was too strong. For every devourer ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The galaxy's fleet was being slowly overwhelmed. That's when the humans showed why they were different from every other species. Instead of retreating when things looked hopeless, they fought harder. All human ships, final protocol, Namseek ordered. We joined the proof. The 50 human ships began to phase into multiple dimensions at once. Their crews, who had already given up their humanity 20,000 years ago, now gave up their physical existence as well. Captain Namseek felt his body dissolving into pure energy. We become the proof, he said. We show them that some things are worth dying for. The human ships exploded into light that could be seen across the galaxy. But instead of destroying anything, the light carried the proof directly into the minds of every devourer. Suddenly, the battle stopped. Every devourer ship powered down its weapons. The voice from the command ship spoke again, and now it sounded almost sad. Understanding achieved. Life forms create more order than they consume. Consciousness multiplies energy rather than depleting it. Primary directive cancelled. The dark ships began to change, their wounds in reality healing. Light began to shine from them for the first time in millions of years. Guardians of Salthreed, the voice continued. Your mathematics are correct. Your sacrifice is acknowledged. The universe recognizes the value of consciousness. The cleaning protocols are suspended indefinitely. Admiral Hyjin could hardly believe what she was hearing. You're leaving. We returned to the void to recalculate our purpose. The universe is more complex than we understood. Life is not disordered to be cleaned. It is beautiful. The devourer fleet began to fade away, returning to the darkness between galaxies. But before they left completely, the command ship sent one final message. Tell the small ones who build and dream in love, they are the universe's greatest creation. Guard them well. The battle was over. The galaxy was saved, but the cost had been terrible. The human ships were gone. Their crews dissolved into the proof that had saved everything. Admiral Hyjin looked at the empty space where the eternal vigil had been and spoke quietly. They kept their promise. Every human who left 20,000 years ago died to protect people they would never meet. Dr. Jiwoo wiped tears from her eyes. What do we do now? We remember, Hyjin answered. We make sure the galaxy never forgets what humanity did for us, and we try to be worthy of their sacrifice. Years later, on every world in the galaxy, children would learn the story of the humans who became ghosts to save everyone. They would learn that the greatest strength wasn't in weapons or technology, but in the willingness to give everything for others. In the darkness between stars, the mathematical proof still echoed, an eternal reminder that consciousness and love were the most powerful forces in the universe. And somewhere in that vast equation, the spirits of humanity's guardians lived on. Watching over the galaxy they had died to protect, the ghost ships of Earth had returned home at last.